This week we read a portion of Metzora, and it's also Shabbos HaGadol, the Shabbos when a great miracle happened in the land of Egypt, when the firstborn killed out many of the Egyptians. In this week's portion, the Torah tells us that when the Jewish people came into the land of Israel, there were times where a leprosy would appear in the wall of their homes. Now one would say to himself, oy vey, all of a sudden my walls are starting to discolor. What do I do? It's a terrible thing. So Torah tells us, yes, it's a terrible thing. You got to knock the wall out. But in essence, in that problem, there's a blessing. Because in the walls of many of the homes of the Amorites in the land of Israel, they hid treasures. For they knew the Jewish people were going to come take up over the land, and they figured, let's hide our money in case who knows what's going to happen. And when God made the leprosy, the Jewish people had to knock the wall out. So they found the blessing. A great lesson for us in life. Sometimes you can think you're a terrible misfortune struck. You have to realize that sometimes a misfortune, or in essence, always a misfortune, is a blessing. Sometimes we see it and sometimes we don't see it. For the depth of every problem, there is a blessing, a hidden blessing. And here in this week's portion, we read how this blessing was not hidden, but it was a real blessing for all the Jewish people. A few days ago, last week actually, I was speaking to a good friend of mine, and he tells me how his son traveled to Italy, and over there he went into a kosher restaurant, and he asked the mashgiach, can you please give me a pair of tefillin to put on? And he said, I have no time for you. And this young man was very, very, upset. He wanted to put on tefillin and no one's going to help him. And he went back to his hotel, and he's standing in the hall of his hotel, and as he's telling his father over the story, there was someone standing next to him. And the person overheard the conversation, said, you want to put on tefillin? Come up to my room, come. And he took him up to his room and he put him on tefillin. So the father tells me, you see, God wanted him to put on tefillin. And I told the father, no, your son wanted to put on tefillin. And because your son wanted to put on tefillin, it meant so much to him, God made sure that it happened. So my friends, when something happens, there's a reason for it. And we got to not give up hope. We got to try harder. And we got to be convinced that I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the mitzvah. I'm going to do the good deed. And God is going to figure out somehow or another, some way to make sure that you'll be able to do that mitzvah. So may God bless us as we prepare for the holiday of Pesach. God should give us everything we need and everything we want, physically and spiritually. Every Jew should be able to sit down this year at the Seder, knowing that it's true freedom. Number one is, before Pesach, all the hostages will be freed. And number two, God will show us great miracles as He has shown to us in the land of Egypt. And He has showed us this past week. God will continue to show us great miracles, not hidden miracles. Now we have to go search and knock down the wall. Open miracles, and when we merit to see the coming of Mashiach. L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim. Good Shabbos and Chag Sameach to you all.